All right. If you're watching on YouTube, please like, please subscribe. We are now very pleased to be joined by the newest national champion head coach at Southeastern, Catherine Lawrence. Catherine, first of all, congratulations and thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us and thinking about us.
Of course, I was saying we don't get to have many national championship celebrations around here. So whenever we do, we got to take advantage of it. So I want to start just talking about the sport as a whole, and then we'll get into specifics because I feel like there's a lot of logistics that go into explaining national championship cheer. There's so many different divisions. Where does Southeastern fit into the grand scheme of things? And that was not the only championship you guys won. You finished top 3 in another one. So kind of explain all that.
So we compete in 2 different divisions within the UCA realm. We go into a Division I small co-ed. So we compete against other FCS schools that are smaller co-ed teams, which means we get to put 4 guys on the mat and then 16 girls. So within them combining, they create the small co-ed division. And then we go into our game day, which is kind of like what we do on the every Saturday night in Strawberry Stadium, all combined into a routine. And we can compete. It's open co-ed. So we compete against any teams who want to put the amount of guys that we can on the mat, within it being FCS, junior colleges, community college, it kind of goes off the numbers of males to female ratio that you have. So we competed in that, and that's the one that we won. That's the one we took home the gold in. But we compete both of those every year. So the game day is a newer routine. So we call the other one our traditional routine. That's the old school. They've been doing that for years, but the game day is still kind of new.
Now, is there like a division that is, say, the SEC of competitive cheer? Which one is that? Who took that home this year?
So that's Division 1A. So that's considered all of your FBS teams. That makes sense. I believe that went home with USF for the traditional routine.
Okay.
I could be wrong. And it's such a long and busy
week.
I
bet.
You don't realize who all is winning what or what placement everybody's in. It's hard to keep up with my own. So, but I believe they brought home the big one from D1A. Now D1A all girl, I can't tell you who won that one. Honestly, I don't know.
So when you're there, it sounds like you're not even able to really look at the other teams as much as you're just focused on yourself. Because I feel like whenever we were in high school, and the high school teams would go to Disney and it was we're going to watch everybody. That's not the experience at the college level.
No, it's especially when we have our dance team competing the same time as us. Our goal is to be able to support them and they support us when we go out onto the mat. So when we look at our day, it's not just looking at, okay, what time do we go practice and compete, but what time do our Lionettes go compete and what time do they come off so we can welcome, give them the big hurrah of good job. So we constantly run from venue to venue to support them or in return compete ourselves. So it is, you don't really get to look at your division. You don't really get to watch who is competing against you. Your main goal is you're going to put your best out there. And if it's the best, then you get the trophy at the end of the day, you don't really get to plan, oh, well, they're doing this and now we're going to try it. It's all pre-planned.
When you are heading there, what year is this for you at Southeastern?
I have been coaching since 2015, but I've been in the spirit director position since 2018. So I've been kind of in charge of both groups as far as traveling and getting them to where they need to go since then. But as coaching, I've been in the role.
So is this the first time that do you kind of go into the weekend saying, all right, we've got a good shot? Or do you just, like you said, do you just put what you have out there? And if the chips fall the way you want them to, then, that's great.
You kind of go off your skill level. So this year, this has been the most talented team for cheer to come through Southeastern ever. I mean, for what I know, and I cheered here for 4 years and then I started coaching. So like since 2010, this has been the most talented team to come through Southeastern. So I kind of, in July, was like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do with this group for nationals? This team is just so talented. I was excited, and I knew going into this weekend we were going to come home with at least one, at least one national championship. I just knew that this team worked so hard, and they knew what it took, and they did everything it took to get that job done. So I was confident, and we were bringing home one. I was hoping for that second one, but cards didn't fall in our favor that time.
So how does somebody get into coaching cheerleading? Because I assume you don't arrive as a freshman saying, this is what I'm going to do with my life. How did you end up in that position?
Well, I loved cheer. I did. And when I was cheering here, I started coaching a local high school, St. Thomas Aquinas. And so I kind of got into that coaching role. And the director of spirit at the time, Paige Lapperouse Hall, she pulled me back in and was like, hey, I want you to help out. And that's when I started kind of helping out. And I had plans to go into PA school and do something else with my life. And I just started coaching, and I loved it. And then she was like, hey, look, I'm looking to get out of this role now. I'm ready to go be at home with my babies. And would this be something that you want to do? And it wasn't, honestly, it really wasn't what I wanted, but I took it, and I'm glad I took it, because it has been the best leap of faith that I ever took. And it's been exciting. I love getting a new crew in and seeing what they have to offer me and what I can offer to them. I love that connection that I get to make every year.
So it sounds like the foundation was set. This wasn't, when you took it over, this was not something where you had to build it from the ground up. But what are some of the things that because if I'm correct, this is the first cheer national championship.
That is correct. Well, it's our second. So, the first one we won was virtual. So we turned it.
Wow. Okay.
We had to compete virtually that COVID year. So we won that year. But this was the first time that cheer has been in Orlando and been handed a trophy and crowned an applicant. So no, it's not our first, but it was the first experience of that atmosphere. But
that goes back to my question. So what was the thing that I guess you instilled that got the program to where it is now? Obviously, you talked about the talent is there. How do you get that talent?
Recruiting. It's hard to compete against LSU. LSU's right down the road. I chose LSU my first year, so I understand that these kids have that dream, and we can't give them that big FBS game day atmosphere, obviously. But then Louisiana is a state of cheer. I mean, all these high schools around here are winning national championships left and right. So you have all these talented kids that know what competing feels like. And so that's kind of my realm is, okay, you can compete at LSU. I'm not going to knock them, but you can win national championships with Southeastern, So if you want the game day atmosphere, we can't compete. And most of them, they enjoy that game day atmosphere, but they also are competitive. That's why you cheer, you compete. So I think that's our biggest pitch to them is, you come here and you're able to compete. So
I think that's such a great, not just for your program, but I think really across the board of Southeastern. It's this school that honestly, until you come here, people don't really know much about it. But then once you're here, you're going to be able to succeed.
Right. Absolutely. I feel like when I get them in their first year, it's getting them to our national competition. And once they experience that competition with us, they're hooked. It's like, okay, I'm going to stay here. I'm going to stay and I'm going to win again. So that's always exciting is just wait until nationals, fill it out, get the feel of wanting to win and competing. And then they stay around, and it's awesome.
Was there a part of your routine where once you nailed it, you said, okay, we got this in the bag? Was there a certain part?
So for our game day routine, it really just came down to getting the first two elements, which is our fight song and our chant, done, because our timeout was just so much fun for them. So I knew that once they hit all the elements of the beginning half, it was just all right, now it's just a party on the mat. You just literally, we did it to Crunk, the halftime in the same, and they just sold it. And so I feel like as soon as you hear those whistles for Crunk, it was like game over, but for our traditional routine, I always told them, I said, as soon as y'all get done with that cheer, that second half, which is another 45 seconds, that was easy for them. So it was that's where they came to life. As soon as they knew that they hit that first part of it, again, it was just getting through the end of it now.
So you were in Orlando. I'm assuming you got to go to Disney World. Do you have a favorite Disney park or ride?
Well, we went to Hollywood Studios and we rode the Toy Story Mania, which is the one
Yep.
that you shoot them. And I love it because
Mhm.
I'm a competitor. So I make it a
Of course.
competition I didn't win though, so it wasn't my favorite this time.
It's tough.
Um,
It's tough
it
out there.
is. And your
Yeah.
arm gets so tired after shooting that
I
thing.
know. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon, and
It
more
is.
people need to understand
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely. But no, we
Now,
did that and we went to Epcot and called it a day. We only get one day in the park, so we're there for
well, you picked
competition. They get the day to celebrate for the winnings and the hard work because they only get Christmas Eve and Christmas Day off. Like they don't get much off for the
wow.
break. So they earned that day.
I think that there's a bit of a misconception when it comes to the cheer sports that you guys, and I think that it's almost a cliche, you don't put in as much time, but it really seems like over the last few years, you guys have really put an emphasis on becoming a national brand, a Southern power.
Right.
Could you just talk about kind of making that transition and kind of establishing, especially the freshmen that come in, this
Right.
isn't just something you get to put on your resume. This is a true sport. What has that been like for you?
It was difficult at first to get them to understand that I preach to them game day is first. You are here to cheer for the university. That's your number one. We get to compete at the end of the day. And so I've preached that for so long, but then at the end of the day, I need them to know that, but you're competing too. Like that is once finals ends, your priority now is competition. And you get that 1 month to make that your priority and you have to buy in. And I think that the people who have come before the team, every year have continued to set the bar for what is expected to work as far as inside of practice and outside of practice. And they keep the athletes now come to me and are trying to find, okay, where can we go practice now? And I'm like, well, we have practice that. No, we want to practice again outside of practice, and I think they are just continuing to set the bar that I don't have to set, that these athletes come in and they're coming to school here and they get to try out to cheer. It's not it's not an NCAA sport where they're getting
Right.
all this reward for being an athlete. They literally are here to compete and to go to school. So my kids are phenomenal. They do so much fundraising. They work so hard all year just to be able to go compete that one competition. And it's amazing.
Yeah.
I get lucky every year.
What went through your mind when you hear Southeastern Louisiana University? Did you feel like you guys had it, or was it still a shock?
So coming out of semifinals, we were in first place and we weren't shocked, but we were we knew we were going to be up there. We just didn't know how far up there we were going to be. And when the scores came back and there was like a 3-point margin, that's when we were like, oh my gosh, we're going to win this thing. We have to hit though. We got to go back out and do what we just did again, which is tough
Right.
because coming out of first place, you get this huge, coming out of semis in first place, you get a target on your back typically. And what happens is this year we competed on Friday and then on Saturday. So these teams had 12 hours to look at our routine and see why we were where we were. It gives them 12 hours to say, okay, let's make adjustments here and there. And then they can come back and it's a whole new team for them, So that's kind of a fear for us. But at the same time, we knew we were that far ahead. And again, that timeout, I will say, had won it for us. That the song coming on and the momentum they had going into that last element, it was untouchable. It really was. But we were worried there for a second, just because some of those teams they're good. Northwestern looked really good this year, but not good enough.
There you go. There you go. So when Dance won the national championship, they got a banner in the UC. I assume you guys will too. But I think, and I'm going to make the pitch to Jay on this, you guys are everywhere. You should just get a banner in every building.
Every facility, right?
Right, because you're everywhere. You don't have a home.
Pitch that to Jay. Let me see how that goes.
Right. He's got to make it happen.
He would if he wanted to. But that's where we practice. That's where we do all our showcases for nationals. So that's where we feel like that's home for us, There
you go. Catherine, thank you so much. Congratulations. Awesome to have another national champion in Hammond, America. Congratulations, and thank you so much for the time today.
John, thank you really for thinking about us. That meant a lot.
Always, always. Thank you so much.